this feels weird. This whole thing feels weird because this just isn't me. You know, okay. I think most of you guys have been watching me a while know that generally speaking, I am that one guy that's always like, hey, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't jump to conclusions. You know, let's see how this plays out. You know, I'm very patient. I've defended a lot of bullshit over the years. Like a lot of bullshit. Like, let's see. I said I defended the launch version of the not the launch. The announcement of the Xbox One, which everyone hated but me. I defended Sonic Boom initially, which I have, you know, come to regret, you know, overall. I defended DMC, which I still defended to this day, but, you know, I defended that. What else did I defend? What other crap have I defended? I gave Sonic Freeriders a positive review, something I'm pretty sure nobody else on the surface of the planet has ever done ever. So there's that. Oh god, oh, there was something else too, and I can't remember right now. But my point is that I'm the guy that's gonna sit there, see a bunch of gamers overreact, and say, hey, let's chill out, you know, let's just, you know, see how it is, you know, it's an initial trailer, you know, let's just wait. It's all, no, not this time. No, I'm done. I refuse to do that this time because fuck the hell is wrong with Konami? Are you high? Alright. If you have not seen the announcement trailer for Metal Gear Survive, which, okay, then you need to know a few things. Mostly that it is one of the stupidest things I have ever seen in my life, and I mean that. I was legitimately impressed by how unspeakably ill-advised the whole thing was. Like, okay, it starts out fine. It starts out again with the mother base, that they called it, exploding in the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 5. And I'm like, okay, you know, whatever. And then the camera like zeroes in on a guy that we'd like never seen before. Like it's just a random soldier. And there were a lot of random soldiers on Mother Base, so that makes sense. So I'm like, okay, is this gonna be like taking place through the eyes of an auxiliary character? Which I'm not sure whether I'd agree with that, you know, idea. But it's an interesting take on, you know, on the premise, because every single game, with the sole exception of Metal Gear Solid 2, which was mostly Raiden, every single Metal Gear Solid game has either been, you either play as Solid Snake or you play as Big Boss. And, you know, other than Raiden and Metal Gear Solid 2, they have never deviated from that, you know, general, you know, idea. So the idea of making a Metal Gear, you know, game, or rather, well, I guess a Solid game, you know, without playing as Big Boss or a Solid Snake would be a little bit odd. But you know, we had Metal Gear Rising, which was Raiden again. So you know, again, not a big deal. I don't know, you know, I'm not really a big fan of taking the random grunt aspect into it because you know, if I wanted that, I'd play Call of Duty. But I mean, you know, okay, fine. But then all of a sudden, like this wormhole. Or this black hole, some kind of portal into another dimension opens up. And you might be saying, Darkness, have you been smoking something? That doesn't sound, I know, it's, when you know, it almost sounds ridiculous whenever you say it out loud. Probably, and this is just me, probably because it is ridiculous, but let's just keep going. Alright, so they get sucked into this portal, and there's more than one now. There's a bunch of random grunts. There were like 8. I saw like 8 different faces in this time. So I think the idea, partially what they're trying to imply, is that you'll be able to kind of create your own player avatar. Which again, I'm pretty sure that actually has never been in Metal Gear, unless you count like Metal Gear Online and Metal Gear Solid 4. That was like the only time they ever did that. But that was an online, so of course they did that. That would make sense. But then here, we got, I don't even know, and, okay, so, So there's, all of a sudden, there's like these unicorn zombie Resident Evil things. Seriously? And they're like behind a fence, and it's like, and then they gotta start, you know, surviving and killing these unicorn zombie things. Like, they don't have heads, they just have like, kind of like horns jutting out from the necks. The design is very strange. And then it tries to be all awesome, like, oh, look at all the different weapons you can use. There's like pistols and machine guns, and they got a bow and arrow, and I'm like, wow, none of that looks like anything I haven't seen before. But you know, and it shows 4 of them on top of a ridge over a base, and you know, the destroyed mother base and everything, and you know, it's like, I'll survive. It's like, oh yeah, great, and it is just the dumbest fucking thing. I think it is impressively stupid. Impressively stupid this time. There is no defense for this. Because, okay, everything I just described to you and everything I saw, oh yeah, and at the end it goes black and there's like a big noise of it, like a giant creature, so I assume there's going to be some kind of giant thing that's supposed to be the Metal Gear of the game. Which, it damn sure better be, because it's probably going to be the only thing that's recognizable in this entire experience. Alright, first of all, let's get something straight here. This is not a Metal Gear game. Okay, it won't be a Metal Gear game. There's no way they could possibly make it a Metal Gear game because, to begin with, I think in order to be a Metal Gear game, especially one that's taking place outside of the Metal Gear Solid mythos, you know, I get that Rising was a spin-off and it was about Raiden and it had nothing to do with Snake. So you don't necessarily need Snake to be a Metal Gear game, but I feel like it should be something you should shoot for. You know, and that should be something on the plate. Like the only reason Raiden got a spin-off is because he was the main player character of Metal Gear Solid 2. He wasn't just some random guy all of a sudden out of nowhere. You know, he'd been established. So that made some level of sense. Plus, Raiden's codename is actual real codename, as that's explained in the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 2, right? Well, when he's talking to, you know, the Colonel. Colonel explains to him that he calls him Snake initially and says they're changing his codename for the duration of the mission when they call him Raiden then. That's how he got the Raiden name. That's to differentiate him. But Raiden's actual designation from a military perspective was Snake, so it's not like he wasn't a Snake, too. He just wasn't one of the clones of Snake. He was a child soldier, you know, brought up by Solid. That's entirely different story. My point is that every single Metal Gear game has been about one of the Snakes. You know, except Raiden, who's kind of like the Snakes. You know, it's so like I would have think about it if you wanted something different, make a game about Liquid or Solidus. Have we thought about that idea? You know, because we've had like 4 different games about Big Boss now. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 games about Solid Snake, I think so. Well, there's Metal Gear Acid, so that's like 7 or 8 or something like that. There are quite a few about Solid Snake. Nothing about Liquid though, or Solidus. And both of them, it is specifically said both were also established soldiers in their own right. I mean, after all, Liquid was the leader of Foxhound during Shadow Moses incident and everything. So it's not like you couldn't make a game about them. It's not like that couldn't have been done. You know, that might be interesting to see, you know, how they were, you know, I mean, we already introduced Little Liquid in Metal Gear Solid 5. That was a thing that was done. It's not like we're you know, Kojima was ever afraid of doing that. Not that I blame him for this at all, because if I were him, I'd be pissed as fuck. But anyway, my point is, getting back to Survive here, you're not playing as anything that has anything to do with the overall story arc that starts at Big Boss and the Boss. Nothing about this would suggest it has anything to do with that, other than the fact that it takes place immediately after the destruction of Mother Base. Which does not help, because if it's taking place in like a weird alternate dimension, which, let me get to that. Okay, because some defenders have come out for this game, because of fucking course they have. You know, and I should obviously be among them, but I refuse to be a part of it this time. Some defenders have come out by saying that, okay, there have been supernatural elements in Metal Gear before. I don't see why you're complaining. No. You don't get to do that. Okay, you don't get to do that. Because, first of all, for the most part, the Metal Gear games have always been grounded in the reality. And even when they weren't, it wasn't completely out there. You know, some, like Psycho Mantis, he was a psychic, so he could do weird telepathic abilities, you know. It was supernatural, but it wasn't completely, out there. It was still kind of grounded in the believable to a certain extent. Same thing can be said for Vulcan Raven, who was a weird mystic, sort of situation. And then there was also the Sorrow, who could talk who could speak to ghosts. But again, these are little things. Little things introduced in characters in the canon to say that, hey, some people can do some weird stuff, and it makes the games more interesting. But overall, the course of the games, generally speaking, almost every single enemy you face and all the stories are grounded in some kind of realism. There's some kind of believability about this. A wormhole just doesn't open up and suck everyone into it. Now they're in alternate dimension fighting freaking unicorn zombies. That's not something that happens. Okay, that's out of left field. And while I'm on the subject, am I the only one who's just about fucking done with the fucking zombie thing? I have said that about 8 times over the past like 4 years, but fucking seriously, who the hell wants another goddamn game about killing zombies? And I do not care if they're missing their heads and have horns instead. They're still basically zombie infected, whatever you want to call them. They might as well be. You're not helping. Okay, you're not helping. It's the same thing as far as I'm concerned. So why are you even bothering? And while I'm on the subject, okay, Konami has a lot of things about it. And really what I'm getting at here is what I saw. I didn't see as Metal Gear other than the beginning. So you might as well have called it anything. I think people would actually be more well receiving of this entire idea if it was an original IP or something, or even at that, calling it Silent Hill. Now, people would probably still be mad about that, but at least there, what they're putting in front of you isn't like out there. Like, okay, I would be mad too if they were like, here's a Silent Hill game and it's all actiony and shit, because I fucking hate it when people do that. But at least if you called it Silent Hill, it'd be a little bit better, because it was the idea that you're trying to express here would be more believable within the realm of the canon that you're trying to make it a part of, Because Silent Hill's already about, portals to alternate dimension and demons and shit. Like, it's already about that. So them making an action game in that kind of environment, would not be that big of a deal. It would still probably be poorly received in either case, which is why ideally you might want to say that this is a different IP entirely. But at least had they said it was Silent Hill, it wouldn't be quite as offensive. It doesn't fucking help that this is clearly a way to try to, I don't know, stick it to Kojima or whatever, and I hate that. That entire relationship between Konami and Kojima sounds really messy, but like this is kind of childish, I would almost say, And I love how the defense that Konami has come up with for this whole thing. The defense, because the backlash is huge. I don't know if you've seen it. If you've been a part of it, great. If you haven't, like, that trailer has like 80,000 dislikes on YouTube. Like, it's fucking crazy. If people hate the crap out of this, which they should. The defense they brought out is that, hey, be patient. Don't worry, there'll be stealth elements in this game. And I'm like, that is so not the problem. The lack of a stealth element was so not going to be my issue. That's not the problem with it. Like, honestly, I wouldn't even care at this point if there wasn't a stealth element in this game. Because, I felt like the Metal Gear games became a lot more action-y over time anyway. After 3, stealth was kind of there, but it wasn't necessarily a requirement anymore. Like the element it was present, but it wasn't as much about it. We had gotten away from it over time. So to see a game that's in the mythos, and then there was Rising, which had no stealth at all. So it's not like, if you want to make a spin-off and say, oh, there's no stealth, that would not be the problem. And that isn't the problem. In fact, this doesn't look like a Metal Gear game at all. It resembles nothing of what you're trying to present it as. And even on its own, it still doesn't look that good. Because it looks like Left 4 Dead. It really does. You have 4 guys with different weapons, and they're fighting infected. Okay. You might be saying, well, there'll be giant monsters. Yes. There were giant special infected in Left 4 Dead as well. They were called tanks. It looks a lot like Left 4 Dead at this point. I know we haven't seen actual gameplay, but if you can't present your pre-rendered, showy version of the game in a way that's reasonable and presentable and in a way that people are going to like. What does that say about the finished product? Because if we've learned anything over the years, it's that pre-rendered trailers for games often don't resemble the final product like ever. Like, that keeps happening, you know, and people get mad about it, and I'm like, oh, that's just the nature of the industry, you know. The most recent example I can think of is No Man's Sky, which people have gotten mad about because they're like, the final product is not what you showed. To be fair, I understand people's anger more in that case because they presented the initial trailers of that game as in, you know, game. When it comes to Konami, you know, this is obviously a pre-rendered sort of situation, so, you know, I don't expect the game to resemble what they're showing, but if what they're showing isn't good already, what the hell does that say about the finished product? And you know what? It may not be a bad game. I will say that. It may be a fun game on its own because, you know, okay, 4-player co-op, killing infected, you can probably have some fun with that, especially if they make it more along the lines of a Metal Gear-y style where you can find items and there's some kind of co-op single player going on, and you know, and if there's some sneaking element involved that might be interesting. I mean, there's a way to make it work. And I'm not saying it's not going to work. I'm saying that it's offensive to see them take a series that has been so beloved over the years and has so many great fans, and after losing the original creator, to take that series and just slap its name on something that's clearly not what it is. And then expecting people to take it, as in, here you go, here's a new that's not Metal Gear. And you know that's not Metal Gear. You know that's not Metal Gear, and I know you know that's not Metal Gear. This looks like a crap, one of the crappy fan fictions I read on Fanfic Nightmares. That's what it looks like. You know, one of those guys sitting at his computer trying to be edgy as shit, like, and then a mystical portal opened up, and there was hyper-realistic blood everywhere. You know, I mean, that's what it looked like. And they're going to try to present this as an actual game that people are going to want to go out and pay $60 for to play in their spare time. Okay. Like, Konami, first of all, I thought y'all got out of the frickin' game-making industry because you really like your pachinko machines, which honestly would be way more respectable, because at least I understood that decision, because you were making more money off of them. And you're a business, and that's what businesses do. So, great. That would have been fine, but no, now you're gonna say, all right, then we're gonna make games too, and then you're like you canceled Silent Hills, which everyone loved, and you made Kojima mad enough that he left, which, you know, fine, and then you turn around and then you throw this at us. Like, this is like the exact opposite of what you should do, I would think. You know, like, if you want to make a horror-based game, just you know, you have Silent Hill. You own the rights to that. You know that engine still exists. I mean, maybe you couldn't use the same exact engine, but I mean, build off of what was established, what people liked seeing about that. That's not, you know, you can't do that. You can't do that? Because people might actually like you more at this point had you done that. But no, you just want to give us Metal Gear Survive, which looks terrible. I'm sorry. And again, this all feels strange because I'm usually not the guy doing this. This is so not the thing I usually do, but I gotta come out and, you know, be like, no, this is dumb. I don't know, guys. Maybe some of you, a couple guys on Facebook when I posted the trailer and had a bad reaction were like, oh, maybe it'll be good, like, you know, good on you. But me? No. No, unless they show something that looks really impressive all of a sudden, I think I'm gonna still clear this one, I gotta be honest. I just had to get that out there. You know, and you guys haven't had a proper rant in a while, so I figured it was good a time as any. Until next time, this is Darkness, Individual Farewell.